Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys smash that like button down below. We only have 37. You guys know the magic number. Let's get there. Got 187 people in chat. Face cam goes on at 100 likes. And guys, today in today's stream, we got a lot to talk about. I'm sure we're going to talk about even more in the super chats here. But we do have a goal for this stream. We already have one super chat. Technically, we had 3 before I set up the goal. So you could even say it's out of 34, and we're 4 out of 34. But we'll look in regular chat when we hit our goal. Any super chat, $2 and above. If we get 30 of them, which again is going to keep the conversation going, we will have hit our goal for our stream. Probably stream again on Thursday as well, because there is a lot to talk about, and it's definitely the economy. You got a lot going on with the economy. It's a mixed bag, but there are some positives, and we're going to get to some of those for sure in today's stream. But also this whole CR thing with the continuing resolution. I'm about to break my audience in half. It doesn't even matter what take I have. If I have one take or the other, half the people are going to be upset about this, but I have the what I believe to be the correct take on this, because you have a lot of people, they think that they think they know more than they really do. A lot of people have really good intentions when they act this way. I'm not saying that it's entirely a bad thing, but we will get to basically all these new developments here. But first of all, I think it's important that we talk about the CR. So we're 1 like away. We probably already hit it, just loading in the system. But 1 like, we got almost 300 people. There we go. We hit it. We are ready to go. And it's great to be back. It's been a while since our last stream. I've been busy. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been busy. And there wasn't a lot to talk about, but that's how these things go. You have a week that's very dry, and then you have a week that's hectic. Something new is happening every single day, and it's good to be here. But Donald Trump wanting to fund the government, because if you don't pass some sort of funding package for the government will shut down. That's how these things work. The House, it runs directly through the House. Republicans have a very, very narrow majority, especially because there's 2 red districts in Florida. And Republicans do have the districts, most likely. They're going to win both of them when the special election takes place. But these are vacancies. So the majority was as narrow as it was, 220 to 215. That's basically now down to 217 to 215. And you don't have room for error. You have to fund the government. Now, this package does not cut the deficit as much as people would have liked it to. And honestly, you're looking what Elon's doing with Doge, identifying areas to cut. All of that is definitely important. The audits are nowhere near complete. We understand that. And in the new tax bill that will extend the tax cuts, there's an amendment that basically would guarantee that you would have to cut the spending if that bill did become law, to the point where it's like, okay, what do we need right now? We need border security. This bill does a lot of good when it comes down to border security. In terms of wasteful spending, I agree that I'm not a big fan of everything in the bill. Let's just be clear. But a lot of Republicans obviously are supporting the bill because they're not going to make the perfect the enemy of the good. They understand that while it's not perfect, it's a step in the right direction. It does cut a tiny bit. You'd like to cut more, but it's like to keep the government open. This is a CR. It's already improved over the last CR, which is improved over the first draft, whatever. We're moving the ball in the right direction. And if you don't do it, if you don't pass this through, it's going to be a shutdown. It's going to make Trump look bad. It's going to make him lose support. It's going to make him lose his mandate. So you have people in Congress, mainly a person in Congress, which again, you don't have room for error, but you have a person in Congress. Now it passed, and this person didn't vote for it. And one Democrat, Jared Golden, not really a surprise, being the one Democrat to vote for it. And you have people that'll say, well, it's a horrible bill because Jared Golden voted for it. It's like every other Democrat didn't vote for it. I don't think that that's a legitimate criticism, to be honest, because Golden is just, Maine's an independent-minded state. You have people like, you have Democrats up there like Jared Golden, and you have Republicans like Susan Collins. It's a little bit of a different vibe up there in Maine. But we're not talking about that. This Maine The main point here is what I'm trying to say, if I can get my words out here, is that you have this bill in the House to fund the government. Donald Trump is supporting the bill. Thomas Massie is the Republican to oppose it. Now, Thomas Massie is somebody who he says the right thing on a lot of issues. You could even argue better than many Republicans. You know, you could argue that he's similar to like a Ron Paul type on some fronts. But when it comes down to being a team player and just understanding pragmatism, understanding why you should not really make the perfect the enemy of the good, that's where he kind of just, it gets thrown out the window. Now, this is the same guy who voted for a Biden CR. Now, he's tried to explain it away because he's saying like, oh, well, because I thought the next one will be better, but it wasn't, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, okay, but still, you still voted for it. To the point where you really probably shouldn't have done that. But that's besides the point. When it comes down to this whole thing, if you're going to be upholding your supposed principles, it has to be consistent, even if you try to explain it away. But in terms of Massie and in terms of things that he has done, he's always been this thorn in Donald Trump's side because the majority is so narrow and nothing's ever good enough for him. And at times you are left scratching your head. You know, he doesn't support Mike Johnson for speaker because he wants somebody better. It's like, okay, I agree that we could probably do better. So who does he vote for? Does he like vote for himself? No, he votes for Tom Emmer. Tom Emmer's a joke. Tom Emmer makes Mike Johnson look perfect in comparison. It's ridiculous. Like, a lot of it is grandstanding. A lot of it is just general opposition to Donald Trump. And he arguably is more of a thorn in Trump's side than he's making a ruckus when Biden is president. So Trump basically says, you know, Thomas Massie of beautiful Kentucky is an automatic no vote on just about everything, despite the fact he has always voted for CRs in the past, which he hasn't always, in all fairness, voted for CRs, but he has voted for CRs in the past under Biden. Trump then says he should be primaried. I will lead the charge against him. He's just another grandstander who's too much trouble and not worth the fight. Which that part is very controversial. And then he continues and he says, he reminds me of Liz Cheney before her historic record-breaking fall loss. The people of Kentucky won't stand for it. Just watch. Do I have any takers? Anyways, thank you again to the House Freedom Caucus for your very important vote. We need to buy time in order to make America great again, greater than ever before. Unite and win. So here's the deal. A lot of people are very upset about this statement. And I can see why people would say, well, why will we primary somebody who is like good? Like what's the point of getting them out of Congress? And I think the main takeaway is because he's such a thorn in Trump's side to the point where he's not going to ever be satisfied. And Donald Trump doesn't see him as an ally if he's somebody who is just never going to be satisfied. It's not perfect. I wish Trump could just push a button and fix the debt, fix the country, fix spending. You can't exactly do that. Thomas Massie sitting up there and saying no, when even then he doesn't even have any leverage at this stage in the game, it just kind of comes off as petty. You know, you could say that, like, oh, if he like holds out long enough, the establishment is going to cave into him. Like, that's not entirely how these things work. In fact, you'd probably push the establishment Republicans to get some Democrats to cave and make a deal because they know what happens when you have a government shutdown. You have to, be real here. The time to shut down the government was when Biden was president, when you could actually play a role. But did he actually try to do that? No, and Mike Johnson didn't either. And obviously, he deserves some criticism for that. But we understood that they weren't going to elect a speaker, somebody like a Jim Jordan, who was actually going to be willing to go to the lengths of shutting down the government. People don't want to shut down the government. You have a Republican trifecta. If you can't get anything done with the Republican trifecta, do you understand how bad the optics are moving into 2026? You're not going to have a trifecta to enact the positives of Trump's agenda. And this bill does do good things like give funding to mass deportations. The same people that will talk about the fact that we don't have enough mass deportations are also going to yell because of this bill. And they're going to say, oh no, it shouldn't pass and we should shut the government down. That's not exactly, in my opinion, consistency. These are people who want to be proven right. They never really liked Trump. Some of them might have voted for him or stomached him or whatever, but a lot of this is online stuff. And you have people who just voted, or they either voted for Trump, they held their nose, or they didn't vote for him at all, and they like to complain, and they want to say, okay, I told you so, and they're opposing everything Trump does. They're cheering the stock market when it goes down. They're touting it. They're shouting that from the rooftops, but any positive metrics, which we're going to get to, because there's plenty of positive developments in Trump's administration, oh no, they don't consider those. They don't want to talk about them. They don't want to talk about them, but that's the way it is. You have somebody like Thomas Massie. I've said it before. Am I going to support a primary challenge to him? It would depend who the challenger is, obviously, if it's even viable. Do we have other primary challenges that we need to do? Absolutely. There's several here in the state of Texas. You have Dan Crenshaw. You have Tony Gonzalez. You have plenty of weak Republicans who possibly could lose a primary, who in my opinion very well could lose a primary, and we have to focus on that. But here's the deal with Massie. It's like if Massie gets primary, the establishment's going to be the one wasting the primary dollars anyways, to the point where we might be able to get kind of like a trade-off in another seat based on the allocation of resources. You could make that argument. I really believe that you could. And you'll have a lot of people that are going to be very angry for one reason or another about that, and they want to say, well, no, like he's right for standing his ground. And I understand the dissent and the need to push the boundaries. I get that, but there's a clear method here, and you understand that when this tax bill passes, you're going to basically mandate that a lot of this wasteful spending is going to be cut in the House. And for some reason, Massie's probably going to find some way to oppose that because, oh no, it doesn't abolish the income tax. It's like, you have to play the game you're in. You can have your opinions on certain things, and you can at times, if it's necessary and viable, you can take a stand and say, no, I'm not voting for this. But at the end of the day, you're in a very polarized country. The House is on a knife's edge. It's razor thin. Donald Trump's approval leading into 2026 is everything. You don't have to worry about that in a safe seat, but a lot of other seats are going to be at risk, and you can't really risk a government shutdown to the point where it's like, yeah, maybe you should speak up a little bit more, find a way to go out there and make sure that you can have enough influence to, I guess you would say, limit the type of things you oppose in the bill. And here's another thing about Massie. Where is Massie come primary season? Who does he endorse? What primary challengers? So you could say Trump's endorsements have been a mixed bag, and you would be right. But where's Massie, during this fight? Like, if you actually want to take a stand, you got to be more of a firebrand, not somebody who's just going to sit there with his arms crossed and say no, because that's the kind of guy that he is. So when it comes down to primarying him, I'm sure people in chat are going to be yelling at me. Some people will be agreeing with everything I say. Some people also will be a little bit in the middle. It's like, I used to think primarying Massie would have been a bad idea. Now it's like he's such a thorn in Trump's side to the fact that, yeah, it's become a Cheney situation, but the reverse Liz Cheney, because he's not Liz Cheney. He's kind of the opposite of Liz Cheney in some ways, in a good way. I mean, he's more of like a non-interventionist in foreign policy, doesn't support any foreign aid. I agree with him on that. I actually agree with him on that. But the problem is he grandstands in the worst way possible, and he's unable to play ball. I'm not a fan of foreign aid, but if that's what it takes to get us mass deportations, and that's the only realistic way to do it in a specific bill, and we could get that funding now versus shutting the government down, I'm probably going to vote for that bill. And I'm going to raise concerns beforehand. I'll raise concerns after the fact. It's a hard fight. There's different factions within the GOP. If you have a problem with it, why not try to promote primary challengers? Be more of a firebrand, but he doesn't even do that because I don't know. Is he lazy? Is he just somebody who is just always in a corner? He only comes out to be principled and grandstand, and he goes home. I don't know exactly what this guy's deal is. But the bottom line is that no, Donald Trump is not extremely out of line for saying that Massie should possibly go. Now, is he going to be successfully primaried? It's been tried before. Trump didn't endorse a challenger. You had a lot of challengers that were trying to face him, like from, I don't know what angle they were really getting at, but they really didn't make any progress, and you saw that. But when it comes down to Trump getting involved, backing a candidate, recruiting a strong candidate, maybe you can make headway. That's really going to be just a threat for now anyways, because when Trump does this, he'll be like, okay, well, if you keep doing this, if you keep acting like a thorn in my side, then yeah, I will. Because if you're not going to vote for anything, even if it's the good things, because there's a little bit of bad that you don't like, well, then you're being counterproductive. And I've said this about Massie for a while. I want the perfect as well, but you can't make the perfect the enemy of the good if the best you can currently do is the good. That's the way it is. Like, it's not going to be perfect. Not everything not every 100% of Trump's campaign promises are going to likely come true. That's the way it is. I'm not a fan of that, but that's the reality. That's politics. But if you can, move the ball down the field, if you can get 75% of the border wall built, you're not going to say it's a success, even if there's little pieces that are not there yet. Of course, it's going to take time. It should be done, but our government is weak, inefficient. And we do need to cut spending, and Massie's right about that. But now when we just have to wait for this tax bill to go through so we can actually get that in place to the point where there's no excuses, doesn't really seem like now's like the time where we're going to be able to do all of that overnight. And that's kind of what it is. It is government spending. You need these bills to keep the government running, keep the government open. I'm not a fan of that. It's the way it is. And this is not the only thing. He's been a grandstander on numerous topics. Immigration is another one where he's not all that great in, just being honest. You have people that act like he's some hero because he doesn't take AIPAC money. It's like, well, that's not stopping, that's not actually something that is helping Donald Trump enact his agenda because you're voting no on everything. And, well, we have to keep him there because he's not taking money from a PAC. Is that it? Guess what? He's in Congress. We're still sending X amount of billions every year overseas to numerous places. But that's just the way it is. You have a lot of people that are just unpragmatic and just don't understand the reality of the game of politics. And Massie, I think, is one of them. He may have some good intentions, but again, look at him supporting Tom Emmer. Look at him supporting the dead-end Ron DeSantis campaign. Like, seriously. Does he think that Ron DeSantis, if he was president, would be able to spend? He'd probably be spending more. He'd probably be spending more on like military stuff because he kind of has that more neocon slant when it comes down to his foreign policy. Flip-flopping all over the place on Ukraine, etc. We understand how that is. But you have somebody who is weaker on foreign policy that's supposedly Massie's like strength, according to his fan base. But then he's supporting Ron DeSantis, who probably is demonstrably weaker than both Donald Trump and some other candidates that were on that debate stage too, like Vivek Ramaswamy, for example. DeSantis never had a shot. He still backed him anyways. It shows lack of political acumen because everybody knew the campaign was a dumpster fire. A lot of establishment Republicans didn't endorse in the primary. Why didn't they do that? Because they understood that it was a fruitless endeavor. If they were like really anti-Trump, the really rhino types, yeah, they probably endorse Haley over DeSantis, despite being open to DeSantis, because that's how bad his campaign was run. And of course, you have a lot of DeSimps and you have a lot of other people on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that are teaming up, like doing everything they possibly can do to defend this guy. It's like, what's going to happen if he gets his way? Like, you're going to have a government shutdown. It's going to be chaos. What if you get it reopened eventually? You lose your mandate. It's a disaster. A trifecta shutdown. Really? Like, seriously, some people might say good, whatever, but you have to be pragmatic at the same time. You have to understand the general public is not going to be losing their mind, even in the GOP, about Trump's decision that he wants to primary. And you could say, well, this is cult behavior because they're just listening to what the leader says. But the leader is important here. If you're the president who's spearheading your agenda, yes, it is important to at least consider the opinion of Trump in a place of authority. That doesn't mean he's perfect on every endorsement. If he's not giving an endorsement that I like, then who's been the one to say it? I've been the one to say it. I think in terms of Karen Taylor Robeson in Arizona, horrible endorsement. especially with Biggs in the running. I don't know if Trump even knew Biggs was going to run. And I know that he had to make a deal with her so she'd fund his campaign. I get that. I still think it was the bad move. I really do. But for all we know, she could still lose the primary. So there's a very good chance he could do a co-endorsement. So I'd encourage that. Or, Biggs could just run a really good primary campaign and beat her, which I think is also possible. Or I'd be fine if she decided to take the lieutenant governor spot and teamed up with Biggs and then gave Biggs her money instead of trying to spend it in the primary she possibly could lose anyway. So that's the way it goes. But we're mainly just talking about the fact that you have a lot of people in the Republican Party that are weak, and that's true, and it's gotten better. But then you also do have grandstanders that are making it counterproductive to pass through any element of Trump's agenda. The deportation numbers need to go up now. That's the main focus. Holding out for some spending, is it the end of the world? Seriously, it's going to be the end of the world. We've already spent ourselves into oblivion. I don't want to continue, but it's like, okay, you want to cut it a few more percent in this CR, and that's worth shutting down the government over. I'm not ready to go there. Principle only goes so far. Principle is not supporting Tom Emmer for Speaker of the House. It's not under any circumstances. He's more establishment than Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, he's a mixed bag, but with him, he always has supported or stood with Trump and Trump's side of things for the most part. Like with Biden there, he caves, but with Trump, he's going to, like I always said, he's going to be all right, and he's been all right. It could be better. I agree. But this notion that, we have to burn down the entire thing because the bill's not perfect because of X, Y, and Z. And I might agree it's not perfect. I think it's a little ridiculous. And I don't blame Trump for saying it. I don't even know if Massie's going to be primaried. I'm not even saying I'm endorsing a challenger, but it depends who the challenger is. If you have a challenger who's solid, who's not going to be like a thorn in Trump's side, then that's a good thing. And also, people like Massie, and to a lesser extent, people like Bob Good, who Trump primaried out, despite the fact that the primary challenger was more establishment. These type of guys, Trump doesn't like them for some reason, especially Massie because he's a grandstander. And then you have the Freedom Caucus in the House, and then Trump doesn't want as much to do with the Freedom Caucus because of people like Massie. And obviously, he didn't like Good for some reason. Good was the chair. And that's why you had a lot of endorsements because of that. From Trump in this cycle that were a little bit a little bit mediocre, not all that solid. So it comes down to numerous factors, and it could be addition by subtraction, you could argue, because if Trump is going to be more closely aligned with who's left in the Freedom Caucus, because the grandstanders are out, the grandstanders are gone, that's a very, very positive development because a lot of those people are some of our best congressmen. You just don't hear about them as much. As somebody like Massie, who is known for doing things like this and grandstanding. So there's that. And we're going to talk about more positive things as well because Trump has taken several big presidential victories lately, and we have to talk about those as well. So if we could pull up this tweet here. Border crossings are down 93%. This is true. And we need deportations. I'm not saying that we don't. But the truth is we're moving the ball down the field. Any moron out there who's like, haha, you voted for Trump. Trump is doing this. Therefore, we were right, you were wrong. They can just go, they can go screw off somewhere. Because the main takeaways with Kamala Harris, that would have been the opposite. And you would have had a permanent problem. Amnesty would be on the table. It's like, could things be better with deportations? Yeah, but how many weeks are we through Trump's term? 7? And you're finally just getting the funding to execute more of these deportations. And we need a lot more funding. Don't get me wrong, but we need more funding. It's important. That's a top issue for why a lot of Americans back Donald Trump. And it does seem as if we need to get that under control first and foremost. Now, inflation's another thing because the egg prices were going up because of the bird flu. Donald Trump made efforts to bring more eggs into the U.S. from other places not affected by bird flu, and they're actually down since he took office now. They're actually down 183 per dozen from, I believe, like a couple weeks ago. So that's a positive thing because the Democrats are like, eggs this, eggs that, eggs this. Well, eggs are going down. Now, are they still relatively high? Yeah. I don't know if we're going to see deflation with groceries, but if you could raise wages over time, it's going to be able to correct itself. Now, a lot of people talking about the stock market. Trump's tariff threats are definitely shaking things up, and that's making people sell a little bit. There's no denying that. But this notion that, it's in free fall, it's not entirely true. And it's not just the Trump tariff threats that we're seeing, which, by the way, Ontario, they're caving. They're coming to the table. There was going to be this whole electricity thing. And you saw this in the markets today, where the markets were dipping and then they turned a corner. I think they finished in the red. I could be wrong, but it wasn't exactly as much in the red as they were earlier in the day. And also, Zelensky is agreeing to a ceasefire. They're in talks. They're very likely agreeing to a ceasefire in Ukraine. You're seeing peace on that front. These are campaign promises. Is it going to take time? Yes. Are you going to have good days, and are you going to have some not so good days? Yes. It doesn't matter how good of a president you are, every single administration is going to have good days, and every single administration is going to have bad days. I can't really think of a good day in the Biden administration, but maybe you could say when the media just hype up a State of the Union or something counts, but that's not the point. But then job growth, we're seeing job growth again. It's a miracle. For the first time in over a year, native-born Americans are getting more jobs than non-citizens and illegal aliens. How on earth was this a thing? Like, how would we do that? What nation would do this to themselves? It's like shooting yourself in the foot. You're getting walked over by the entire world thinking that you're doing something virtuous. It's like, no, this is a problem. This is why the economy sucks. It's going to suck for people who can't even vote because they're not citizens unless they find some way. I wonder who would teach them. But like that's kind of where we're at right now, where you're starting to see us returning to normal. It's not going to happen overnight. People can't expect it to happen overnight. You're not going to push a button. Everything's going to be all great. But are we seeing progress? Yes, we're seeing progress. Inflation index shows the rate dipped in half. Now, I don't know if that's going to hold because that index is a little bit volatile. I'm not sure if that'll hold, but it's true that a lot of it runs through energy. Gas prices are down. Gas at Costco today, under $2.50 a gallon here in Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. That's a very, very positive development. It's not going to be that cheap everywhere, I understand, but you're starting to see gas prices dip, which is a very good thing, and hopefully it continues because we need to go. We're going back to the pro-energy policies. We need more of it, and we're going to get more of it, but over time, hopefully we're going to see gas prices fall back to where they should be, and then everything else should, in a way, you could say, go through that, because every single product that you buy goes through energy. It goes through, either if you're buying something at Target, they have to keep the lights on there. Obviously, we know that. But also the transportation, that's the big one. How the products get transported from place to place. It's a big deal with gas. Big deal. So when you look at this, and now you have funding for deportations, hopefully, it's a positive development. A positive development that we see. Definitely the media is not talking about that. We understand the way the media is going to be. They'll talk about, tariffs this, tariffs that, whatever. But regardless, tariffs, it's like tanking in a way. Not tanking the economy permanently, but you're going to have possibly some short-term losses so you can have some long-term gains because other countries, including our supposed allies, Canada is a big example, they've been taking advantage of us and we need to get them to come to the table. And the same thing goes for Mexico. The same thing goes for China, even though they're definitely more of an adversary, but still, we need to make sure that we can make more products here. We can do it. We need more jobs. And trade policy has been a major reason why. And Donald Trump is leveling the playing field. And if you look at the inflation that it would cause, even from some of these studies, it's minuscule in comparison to what we saw during the past 4 years. The media didn't want to talk about that. They didn't, but now they do want to talk about it, and it's a major problem. But the economy, it's also based on vibes because you have people that are like, well, what about 2026? Well, obviously the stock market isn't doing that great right now. Nobody's denying that. I mean, it's not in total free fall. It's probably a little bit below where it was when Trump took office, but it's not an utter disaster. And you have to wait a little bit because this is the initial shockwave. That's going to be the biggest thing that is not going to help the markets. So as time goes on, people need to understand, yeah, and also it's part of it's a correction. Because under the Biden administration, you saw a lot of fluff in the stock market. A lot of the job numbers were inflated, and they proved this. And now it's starting to kind of come to light. And the stock market realizes it, and it's correcting itself. And yeah, the tariff threats are indeed causing the market to shake a little bit. Nobody's really denying that, but there are other factors as well, and Trump was left with a mess. You kind of might have a recession. It's not because of the tariffs that you're going to have a recession. You had tariffs under Trump the first time that people panicked about, the markets panicked about. They may not have been as extensive, but they didn't exactly cause a recession. And you're seeing here a recession that basically is just opening just reality, opening the reality box of the economy over the past 4 years, and you're realizing, wait, this is all fake? Oh, well, you could suffer for a couple quarters, which we did under the Biden administration, but again, they changed the definition of recession, so it wasn't actually a recession, but it was a recession. And it's also about the vibes of it. If you have a recession where, we're not seeing a lot of growth, but then people aren't being like laid off, losing their jobs, and then prices for some reason actually start to go down, it's not going to be viewed in the public eye as a recession. You didn't have a recession in 2024, but polls consistently showed that half the country believed that we were in a recession. Half the country believed the unemployment rate was at a 50-year high, but it doesn't show up in the data. And the data is not always accurate, but the vibes kind of matter in terms of the economy, and people ignore them because they say, oh, this is like some economic pseudoscience or whatever. But it's true. The vibes do matter. They dictate election results. They dictate how people view the economy. And if Trump is in there and you actually see some progress on the vibes front, then yeah, 2026 is definitely going to be ripe for the taking for Republicans, or at least for the holding, because they're the ones playing defense. But there's some places where they're going to be playing offense as well. It's kind of like a little bit of a mixed bag. And if Trump is delivering and his approval rating stays high, then that's a big reason for Republicans to be optimistic about 2026. I mean, just based on the maps, you're not going to see a lot of movement. A blue wave would be 225 seats, not even. Like that's just where we are right now with the House map and polarization. The Senate would be like 51-49. But then again, Collins distances herself from Trump. Even Kemp in Georgia distances himself from Trump. He plays that card to the point where, he might actually be able to survive that for some reason. So like either way, the Democrats in terms of the Senate are beyond in a tough position. Tom Tillis in North Carolina, a little bit of a different story. I think that if Democrats, if they can run a solid candidate against him, he's vulnerable. But this notion that they're going to sweep the board, it's not likely going to happen. But the polls are still garbage, and the garbage polls are back. And this one is a really funny one. We saw one with Trump's approval rating in Texas -9, which is a joke, because if he's -9 in Texas, that means that he's minus like 26 nationwide, because Texas is like 14 points to the right of the country, and Trump won the popular vote by like 1-2. So it's like insane that they would actually release a poll like that. Like, even if you want to say it's dropped a little bit, honeymoon period, whatever, people having economic anxiety, which they already had, by the way, under Biden. It's very clear that his approval rating may not have been what it was at the onset of his presidency. Every single president goes through that. But still, with Trump, it's pretty stagnant. And like the disapproval's gone up, but the approval has stayed roughly about the same, which is good. But then you see polls like this. Kamala Harris for 2028, hypothetical poll, over Donald Trump by 7 in Michigan. Okay. Seriously, believe this. I'm telling you, believe it. Believe it. Run her again, please. Please run her. Believe this poll is real. Believe that Michigan totally hates Trump's tariffs. It totally wasn't something he bragged about on stage at every rally in Metro Detroit and Grand Rapids or wherever. Please believe that this is the way these things work. Please believe that Donald Trump is down by 7 in a hypothetical rematch, and there's a 9-point swing. Believe it. Run her again. She could do the "I told you so" campaign, right? She could do it. Run her again. I'm telling you, Democrats, I'm giving you a win here, right? Make sure you run her again. Believe it. I dare you. I dare you to believe it. Run Kamala Harris against J.D. Vance in 2028 and see what happens. There's a chance it happens. She's either going to run again or she's going to run for governor of California. Either way, she runs for governor of California. There's a chance she underperforms vastly. She tanks the Democrats and their chances at a House majority in the process. She probably wins. California is done, but it might wake up enough voters to the point where it's like, okay, well, maybe there'll be some hope in the future, at least of a real governor in California. Or 2028, she goes for the presidency. And this happens. And polls like this, and all the polls that have her atop the nomination, they're encouraging her to run. Hillary Clinton ahead of 2020, there are a few polls here and there. She was towards the top, but it was such a big field. Biden was the front runner after the 2016 election. He got the nomination, even though he needed a lot of help. They carried him across the finish line. They did basically admit to rigging it against Bernie Sanders again in the primary, not with the actual ballots, but with how they had coordinated the dropouts, and definitely avoided a contested convention that way, because they force-fed everybody Biden on a silver platter. As awful as he was, and as much as they didn't like him, he was force-fed, and you saw what happened. You saw everything after that point, but still, he was the initial front runner. But initial front runners don't always win. Trump, obviously, former president, he won in 2024 easily. He was always the front runner, but he actually gained a lot of support because all the other candidates just completely made a fool out of themselves. So you have that. But obviously 2016, Trump wasn't really polling near the top. Trump was actually one of the ones polling near the top, ironically enough, in 2012 in some of those polls. But even then, Palin was the front runner. And then Gingrich, it changes. So I'm not saying she's going to be the nominee, but are Democrats dumb enough to put her up again? I mean, yeah, it's very possible that they are, because the more competent old guard, they're kind of gone. They're in the rear view mirror, and that's the way it is. So we've done a pretty long monologue. I did want to get to the super chats, and I'm sure we have plenty of them. I'm sure some are very at odds with what I've been saying about the Massie thing, but it's this guy is a grandstander. There's no doubt about it. And Donald Trump doesn't like that, because even though some of these bills are not perfect, it's inhibiting him from passing certain elements of his agenda that a lot of his base does care about. And it's not like he's not trying to cut spending. But it does seem as if you're kind of in the process with Doge. They're kicking the can down the road till they get there. But then there's this thing in this tax bill that's going to limit the amount that you can spend at a given time. And that's what Democrats are also panicking about. So there's that. So we have a lot of super chats we'll get to. We're only at 9. So make sure you guys keep sending them in. Any color super chat will get you there. Keep the conversation going. But let's see, Johnny Heartdog for 10 kicking us off. 2 questions. 1, how bad do you think things will get before they start getting better? And 2, with drilling starting soon, when do you think gas prices will drop? Well, they're already dropping a little bit. I don't know if that drop is going to continue, but it will happen at some point. And then how bad do I think things will get with the economy before they start getting better? I mean, the stock market might continue to slide, but I think it's partially a correction, partially what you're seeing from the shockwave of these tariffs, and also Trump with his recession comment, which again, it's true to an extent, but it does shake the markets. We could be entering a recession, and Trump knows that. He wants to say, guys, we're gonna have it. We're gonna go through this. We're gonna get through it together. But things are gonna be great on the other side of it, and that's what he believes. Now, doesn't mean we're gonna get one, but it's kind of a contrast. A lot of people were upset about him not possibly trying to convey concerns with COVID and stuff back in the day. He's kind of building off of that, even though, to be fair, the whole thing was overblown to Trump's credit. But Also, Johnny Hot Dog for 5 says, I realize things will get worse before they get better. We're thinking long run. I hope things improve. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see some economic depression during the midterms. I don't think you'll see that at all. If things get bad for Trump and the tariff experiment fails, he's always one to correct course. But I don't think it's going to fail. I think that you're going to get countries to come to the table, and you're going to get better deals made at a very minimum. Johnny Hot Dog for 2 says, Trump lied. He said we'll all get tired of winning. I don't know if you're saying that we're like losing right now or if we're winning, because I think we're doing a lot of winning. I'm not tired of it yet, but we are getting a lot of winning, and then there's some things that need to be touched up a little bit, but it's part of the process. I don't think overnight, day one, you're going to see the economy just be able to be fixed anyways. So now is the time to do this. Now is the time to enact the tariffs, because the economy's already just bruised and battered, and it's not likely going to get bruised and battered much more. If you wait till everything's fine, then you start to go into uncharted territory. So he's doing everything right as it stands today. Can't complain about that. Johnny Hot Dog for 20 says repealing ranked choice voting now has all the necessary signatures to be on the ballot again. It narrowly lost, but there were hundreds who didn't vote because voting doesn't matter. If they voted, Alaska would have repealed it. And yeah, Alaska, it matters. I mean, there's always competitive races. Doesn't matter if you know the presidential race is going one way. There's always ballot measures. It doesn't matter what state people live in. Everybody has to vote and vote their entire ballot. Don't just vote for president and leave the rest blank, because there's a lot of people that did that too, and it's not a good thing. It's not. XJ Cherokee Bear says Massie will be a Mosh 2.0. Yeah, people will compare him to somebody like a Ron Paul type of figure. But like Ron Paul, I think, was supporting Trump this past election, which seemed a little out of character, whereas Massie was like cheering people for writing in DeSantis and Massie as VP, which is just ridiculous. But to be fair, he did say, oh, do it if you're not in a swing state. But it's like, why? Why even tout that idea? Why put that idea in people's heads if you want to save the country from Kamala Harris and the Democrats? It's ridiculous. Matt Gagnon for 5, that's a name we haven't heard in a while on the Super Chats, says, hey, Rep, could you tell us how Anna, Illinois, the largest city in Union County, voted and how much it shifted from 2020 to 2024? Much appreciated. Yeah, I could actually pull this up, not on screen, but let me see, get the detailed map up. I don't know where that is. Is it even on the map? It's not on the precinct map, but for the county, you said, what county was it? Union County. Okay. It's one of those counties that wants to secede. Now, it's not likely to happen, but Union County voted for Trump 71 to 28, and it shifted 3 points to the right from 2020. So hopefully that answers your question. Nebraska Republican says, when will you do updated tier list? Later this month, I will do 1 or 2 of them. I know I need to do them. A lot of people have been asking about that. It's going to happen. Red Whale Politics says Massie is becoming kind of a grifter, low-key. Well, is it even low-key? Well, like the thing is he's kind of been more low-profile. I know he's done I've seen clips, like he's done a couple shows here and there. But it's like, I don't know what his end game is, to just be a thorn in Trump's side on literally everything. Because at that point, you become counterproductive. If you want to be an ideologue that influences the culture, then do that. But you're not going to be able to do that from Congress. Like, technically, we need people influencing Congress, and that's true. Then why aren't you using your power to build a PAC, endorse people that share your worldview so you have a little bit more pull, but also understand you can't shut down the government over every little thing? That's all I'm saying about Massie. I think there's opinions he has that are the correct opinions. There's things that he says I disagree with. You have people that act like he's some perfect politician for some reason or another. He's not. His immigration stances are fairly weak compared to a lot of other Republicans in the Freedom Caucus, for example, because he's so like in this like framework of, oh, we got to be super libertarian, can't spend anything, can't do anything. That's not how the world works. Like I tend to agree, in terms of some libertarian principles, foreign policy. Yeah, we should be less interventionist. I agree with that. Obviously, Trump is more of a realist. He does it in a very unique way, but some people think because of some of his other rhetoric, he's like an isolationist, which is just not true at all. It's just a straw man. But no, it's like he's a libertarian. He's at times like more of a Lolbert on certain things. It's like just let's keep the government open. So Trump doesn't have a PR crisis. If that makes one a Trump cultist, then I don't care because it's common sense politics. If the other side does it, they play to win, even though they've been a disaster lately, then we also have to play to win, and we're not a disaster unless we have some of this nonsense. So that's my take on it. Secession Now says, hey, Red Eagle, how much money have you taken from AIPAC? I don't know if that's satire. I don't know if you're making fun of these people or if you are one of these people. I assume you're making fun of these people, but it's a joke. And the thing is, I criticize AIPAC. I don't like AIPAC. They donate to Democrats, and they donate to a lot of establishment candidates in Republican primaries, and I don't like big money in politics. But you also have a crowd, they'll talk about AIPAC. They won't even talk about other lobbying because they have like the Israel derangement thing going on. It's not like just occasional legitimate criticism or opposition to foreign aid. It's like everything that goes wrong, it's all Israel's fault, and they don't understand nuance. They're incapable of understanding nuance, and it's a problem, in my opinion. When you have people that you can't reason with because like that's their only issue. Oh, Trump is bad because, we can't support Trump because Trump might recognize an embassy changing its location or something like that. It's like you have people that act like that. And a lot of those people are the Massie fanboys. And it's, in my opinion, a little bit of a derangement syndrome thing. Legitimate criticism, yeah, but it's like I tweet out that it's a good thing that Trump is deporting people who are causing chaos and threatening violence, and these are non-citizens, threatening violence and supporting Hamas on certain campuses. Trump puts out a tweet saying he wants to deport these people. These are radical Islamic terrorists that he wants to deport. He is deporting. A judge is trying to block him, but I think Trump's going to win. And it's like, why would you oppose this because this person happens to oppose this? It's just insane, in my opinion. It's insane. Like I'm not like a diehard Israel fan. I honestly, it's not my top issue. I'm not one of these people that cares a ridiculous amount either way. But if you're gonna annoy people about a topic like that, it's just ridiculous. And a lot of these people, they don't understand nuance. They don't, and that's a major problem. It's low IQ. It's a low IQ trait to blame everything on a certain country, certain group of people. That doesn't mean that Israel's perfect. It doesn't mean that we should just blindly support them. But at the same time, it's like you have terrorists who are on campuses that are non-citizens, and you're mad that Trump wants to deport them. What is wrong with you at that point? It doesn't even matter. These are people that promote people that shout death to America. It's not exactly something we want in this country. These are foreign nationals. They disrespect our country. I understand we have had bad leadership. I don't agree with our own country. I don't. Our intelligence agencies, etc. We have a deep state. We're trying to get rid of it. I understand that we're not perfect, but this is our home. This is our country. If you're going to be in our country shouting things like this, then yeah, you're going to get deported. But I'm supposed to okay that because you don't like Israel or something? That's a problem. And also the whole AIPAC thing, they're not the only group, even within the Israel lobby, that has a lot of pull over politics. But these people don't understand that because a lot of them are just dumb and incapable of understanding nuance. They don't understand these other groups as well. CUFI is probably just as big. You just never hear about them for some reason. I wonder why. But Red Whale Politics says, who is worse overall, Obama or Biden? Biden by far. Now, Obama, you could say, was more willingly able to do bad things, willingly able to do evil. That part is true. But as for Biden, like, the damage that he caused was irreparable. And maybe if Obama was president now, it'd be different because you would like have the same apparatus under him, the same radicals. And on top of it, he would be more cunning in his approach. But no, I think Biden was overall, he was a bottom 5 president. Like, there's a lot that Obama did wrong. He was not a good president. But if you're talking about historic bottom 5, Biden is, without recency bias, take recency bias out of the equation, because Obama was bad, and Bush was bad as well, to be fair. Not a fan of Bush. He left office with a 26% approval rating. Lower than that, actually. It's not like it's some just revelation. Even the Republican Party's approval was not very good. And that was a very neoconservative, Bush-aligned Republican Party back then. But what you're seeing now, it's like, yeah, Biden was way worse. Obama, maybe you could say he would just keep people placated enough, and that's like worse. And Biden opened up enough people's eyes, and we saw Donald Trump come back and that part of the saga. And he was entertaining to watch, for sure. Biden was, everything that came out of his mouth was just insane, incoherent. It was entertaining. It was kind of arguably, you almost want to say sad, but no, he was a mess. He was a mess. But he gave us Trump back, so I guess he did something right. Yes, man, for 10 says you're going to watch the Michael Bay Skibbity toilet movie when it comes. I'm not going to do these brain rot super chats. I don't even know if that's a thing. If that's a serious super chat, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think I go out of my way to watch that. But Doug says, whatever happened to Jim Jordan? I think he's still around. So let's see. On Point Politics for 5 says, I've been disqualified from the presidential race at my university over bogus charges. Absolute disgrace. I'm appealing this. Yeah, I heard about that, and this is a problem. You even have liberals on campuses. They're basically trying to do this lawfare against the MAGA candidates for student body presidents. And our friend here, Lester from On Point, he's running at one of the largest student bodies in the country. If you know anybody at UCF, make sure you get them to vote, because they still can vote. It's on an appeal process. Want to make that clear. But they're trying to kick people off the ballot. They're trying the same thing you did to Trump. There's threats that have been on his life. It's the same thing they've done to Trump. They're what do you call it? They're these investigations, the actual lawfare. It's the same concept, the same thing that they're doing to Trump. Because somebody wears a MAGA hat, they're running for student office, and now they try to get him kicked off the ballot. So it's ridiculous. I hope it gets appealed. I hope it gets overturned. But I actually have a theory. My theory is that they have the votes coming in. They know that he's probably winning, or at least advancing to the runoff, and they don't want that. So they're trying to invalidate it and also suppress the vote in the process, because if it's like, oh, he's disqualified, then people are going to be less likely to show up, aren't they? So it's kind of... It kind of just is a mess. It's a mess, but hopefully it gets fixed. We're all praying that it gets fixed. Eric from Wisconsin for 10 says, remember, Wisconsin folk, vote Brad Schimmel for state Supreme Court, save Wisconsin. Yeah, that's important. Very important race coming up. Very important race. Make sure, even if you know somebody in Wisconsin, you text them. You message them, you send them a DM, make sure they get out and vote, because a lot of people don't even know the election's happening. We have more than enough voters in the tank to work with. We just need enough of them to show up to defeat the Democrat. So make sure that we can do that. You have a strong candidate in Brad Schimmel. There's a shot. There's a chance. So vote early as well. If you're in Wisconsin, vote early. Just don't even worry. You don't know what's going to happen. Election day could be a snow day on April 1st. It's possible. It could be a snow day. So make sure that people get out and vote as soon as they can, because you know how it is in the upper Midwest. You'll get late blizzards and snow and bad weather. It's possible. So make sure you vote early. This whole like aversion to early voting, I hope we put that to bed, at least in-person early voting, because the whole mail-in thing, I get it. If you want to like do in-person mail in Pennsylvania, I support that. But it's like I understand the aversion to mail, but the in-person early voting, need to take advantage of that as much as possible. So, we're not going to have party registration data for Wisconsin, but we need people. We need people voting in that race. JD 1989 says this current downturn in the market is long overdue. The correction that has been predicted for decades. I prefer Trump's V-shaped recession over Kamala's full-scale depression. Dem partisans are fools. Well, of course, they don't understand nuance. We talk about not understanding nuance. There's so many stupid people on so many sides of every aisle that say stupid things, and that's the way it is. And I'm not saying they have to stay that way. You can learn. You can expand your knowledge. That's why I'm here. But it's like they always blame Trump. Trump takes office. He doesn't fix everything in the first 2 months. This is proof he's an awful president. Of course the left's going to do that. But, I don't know. Maybe we were too patient with Biden before he got a lot of criticism, because he didn't start getting criticized until like April, May-ish, when you had the border stuff. Obviously, like the woke stuff, he was being criticized for, but it wasn't tanking his popularity yet. But then he really started to tank with the border, and inflation started to go up. And then you had like Afghanistan. That withdrawal was a mess. That was something his approvals never really recovered from. Even if they possibly could have recovered from other things, it was a stain on his presidency. But according to Alan Lichtman, no, it wasn't a scandal. Not a scandal at all. Where'd the keychain go? Where'd the keychain go, Alan? I don't know. Nobody's going to take it seriously now. I can tell you that much. So, we're at 16 super chats, by the ways. Make sure you guys send in those super chats so we can hit our goal. The money function at the bottom of the live chat is where you send them in. So Doomsday Machine says, good evening, Rep. Who are some of your favorite commentators to watch? My top are Razorfist Sticks, Turley, Doyle, etc. Who are some of your favorites? Well, I know I'm biased. I have to go with myself. I'm number one. I watch all my videos several times. I edit them. Nobody else can say that. I am the first one to listen to them. I make them. But, all the people you listed, I'll listen to from time to time as well. There's plenty of commentators. I don't know if I have like a set rotation right now. I haven't really been consuming a lot of content lately. But it just basically, there's a few that are very solid commentators to watch, in my opinion. Some names, the names everybody knows, some names people might not know as well. But yeah. Eric from Wisconsin says, also vote Brittany Kinzer for state superintendent, save Wisconsin kids. I think they're all Democrats, but I think that's like the best one or something. Like there's like a moderate that's running in that race. I could be wrong, but I don't think a Republican, like a full-on Republican, even ran in that race. J.R. Williams says, why are we resuming arms shipments to Ukraine? Something smells rotten from Denmark, and what is Putin going to think about intentions for peace? Well, they're trying to get a deal done. Now, the mineral deal, I think, is getting done, which is why we possibly could be working out something. I don't mind, like I said, I don't mind if we sell countries weapons, if we're profiting, or if we do deals with them. I oppose all unconditional foreign aid on principle. We have to be getting something out of it that is a net benefit to the United States. We were getting ripped off by Ukraine under Biden. If Trump wants to do a mineral deal, we make money off of that. We don't lose money. Then it's a net positive for our country. But I don't know exactly what you're referring to with that. But in terms of the whole Ukraine thing, like, yeah, we've sent them way too much. We need to actually get something out of it. Hopefully the mineral deal is upheld. Hopefully these talks are going well. We can get close to a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. It's a ridiculous war. It should have never happened. And it's just been a big mess. You have how many lives that have been lost. And Trump apparently is the bad guy because he wants it to end. Zelensky doesn't really want it to end because he knows he's probably going to have to give up territory that is majority Russian, ethnic Russian. You have Donbass and Crimea and pro-Russian. And this whole thing could have been avoided if you didn't coup Ukraine's leader, which was friendly with Russia, but kind of like the middleman in a country that is serving as the middleman back in 2014. None of this would have happened. They couped him. And now you have this big ordeal, taking place. It doesn't justify everything Putin's done. I'm not pro-Putin, but I'm saying, you got to be smart. You got to pick your battles because you didn't have an issue with Ukraine before that took place. That's when Crimea was taken. Now we have Donbass and then several other places. He's going to have to probably at least get those two provinces. And it doesn't affect me. I mean, those provinces are far more pro-Russian anyways. They do the referendums. They say they're rigged referendums, and they say our elections are perfect for some reason. And it's impossible to rig anything. But it's look, I'll be the middleman here. Yeah, they've consumed a lot of Russian, they say Russian propaganda or whatever. But you're not going to get rid of that. They've done that for how long? These are ethnic Russians. It would make sense why they'd want to be a part of Russia. It's like what you're seeing in Illinois right now or with Greater Idaho. It's the same concept. You have a lot of people that identify more with one place and they don't like, the leadership. They're a little bit at odds. And, that's also a reason why Zelensky doesn't want to hold elections is because he knows that certain parts of those provinces aren't going to vote for him, especially now that they're under Russian occupation, but even before they wouldn't want to. So there's a lot of nuance to this conflict, like there's nuance to a lot of conflicts. That doesn't mean Russia's our friend or they're good guys. I'd like to get along with them. Doesn't mean Ukraine is perfect either. I mean, Ukraine is a big mess, very corrupt, home to a lot of shady business dealings. I think a lot of our leaders care so much about Ukraine because of that. They don't want the Russians using Ukraine. They want us using Ukraine. And it's just led to this mess that's spiraling out of control. You have hundreds of thousands of people dying. Ukraine's not going to win the war. You got to make a deal. And if you have strong leadership that can enforce the deal, like Trump, then you're not going to have more encroachment from the Russia side. But this notion that Trump is not tough on Russia, he's soft on them, it's called negotiation. People, again, they don't understand nuance. They don't understand the negotiation. Trump is tough on Zelensky because Zelensky's sitting up here flip-flopping at the White House when he looks like he's dressed less nice than 90% of the people in a gym every given day. That's the main point. When it comes down to Russia, Trump has said in the past things like, oh, you go into Ukraine, I'm going to bomb Moscow. People would say that's like a neocon viewpoint, but even then it's not. It's just Trump using his leverage to project strength on the world stage and to command respect. That's what it does. So with Russia, Trump is increasing sanctions, and that's fine. You have to do that. It's part of the deal. Russia's not going to be able to get everything they want, but neither is Ukraine. That doesn't mean you kill off all the men in your country because of the fact that you might lose a little bit of land. That isn't all that, the people in the land are not all pro-Ukraine in the first place. So let me see. Tucson PaleoCon for 20 says, help us resolve this question in chat. Who are the top 5 presidents of all time? Well, Trump is not complete yet. I'm not going to put him in that list, and it's definitely recency bias. I still think he's going to be up there. I really do. I think that in terms of iconic presidents, I think he will definitely be up there for sure. I think Washington is definitely got to be up there in the top 5. Washington is one of them. In terms of some of these other presidents, I think Polk is extremely underrated. I don't have a top 5, but they're up there. There's presidents that I like. We might do another tier list, an updated tier list. I feel like my tier list was done with less knowledge than I have now. It was done, 4.5 years ago or 4 years ago, somewhere around there. We'll do an updated tier list for the presidents. That's probably going to come later this year or something, but definitely Washington is, in my opinion, you have to say number 1. We wouldn't have a country without him. There's leadership skills. There's very admirable things about a lot of different presidents throughout history. I will say that. McKinley's underrated. very underrated. Coolidge is underrated, but I think he's getting more recognition now. Reagan, it's like I don't think he's top 10, but I think he's top 15. Like a lot of recency bias, and a lot of conservatives will say he's top 5. But that's how it goes. Liberals, you say top 5 presidents, they'll say, Biden for some reason. It's just a joke. And then they'll put Obama in there, obviously. It's like, yeah, it's recency bias. A lot of people don't even remember a lot of the presidents. I can name them in order. I've done that. I could do that ever since I was little. Like, it's not that difficult. But a lot of people aren't that invested in politics. They don't know, like, a lot of people don't even know who Warren G. Harding is. And to be fair, I don't know much about his administration compared to a lot of other administrations. But those, like, presidents in the middle, not a lot of them were all that well known. Like Teddy Roosevelt in the 20s, he's a big name. Obviously, FDR, not really the biggest fan of everything he did, but he's definitely a notable president that people point to when they're asked about presidents in that time frame. But between like Lincoln and FDR, like how many presidents can like the average person name? Maybe Roosevelt, maybe Woodrow Wilson, who's known for being awful. Like seriously. So let's see. Base Cat with a member chat says Trump signed English to be our official language. Hope he does the same with Christianity. Meanwhile, disarray Democrats are concerned about pronouns. I don't think you could do that because of the establishment clause. Like, is America founded, or is it founded on Christian values? Is it technically a Christian nation? Yes. However, the establishment clause is probably going to prevent that from happening. We don't have a state religion. You have freedom of religion. I don't think he's going to do that. I really don't think he's going to end up doing that. But in terms of the values and the things that his policies do, are your policies going to bring back God into the public square? That's kind of what I'm looking at. Like, it'd be cool to be like Poland. It'd be cool to have like a crown. Because Poland, they have a king. They made Christ the king of Poland. That'd be really cool to do here. I just don't know if it might take like a constitutional amendment to get that done or something like that. So that's kind of the hang up. Meanwhile, disarray Democrats are concerned about pronouns. Exactly. They should be banned. That the executive order should ban usage of pronouns. Yeah, I don't care. That violation of the First Amendment, I don't care. We'll rip it up for that. It's just common sense. I say that jokingly, but it's common sense. Pronouns are a joke. People who use them are a joke. It's just an annoying way that the left is trying to reshape our culture, cater to 0.002% of the population that is arguably not mentally well, and change every little aspect of our dialectic or our dialogue on a daily basis about. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's comedy. It's that bad, and it's gonna go away. It's gonna go away. Wokeness is dying. It's kept on life support. So there's that. American Nerd 1776 says Greenland is having an election and the opposition party is leading the early results. I don't know the name. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they support independence from Denmark and want a closer relationship with the U.S. I know. And that's a good thing. And I tweeted about this before the stream, and I said that you look at Texas. It could be our new Texas. It's not going to be a state, oil, they have that. It's more like a new Alaska on that front. But it's a new Texas in the way that Texas, they got independence from Mexico. They were their own country in the 1830s, I believe, somewhere around that time frame. And then over time, they did get admitted into the U.S. We annexed them. They joined because they realized it'd be beneficial to team up with us. Greenland, a lot of people want to be free from Denmark. They don't like their relationship with Denmark. At the same time, many of them are hesitant to say, okay, we want to join the U.S. But it would be beneficial for the people of Greenland to join the U.S. So if they become independent, you strike a deal, you have more American influence. Over time, they'll be more likely to want to join America because you're not going to realistically have like an independent country with that small population. It's like, it's not likely to happen. So Trump is somebody who wants to go in there and I don't know if he wants to annex it like militarily, but I think that he wants to engage in talks, make a deal. He's the deal maker. He is the art of the deal. He's the author of the art of the deal. He wants Greenland. He's going to get Greenland over time. Now, it might not happen in his presidency. It might take time, and that's fine. He's still going to get the credit. It'll be like JFK with the moon landing. It'll be like Reagan with the fall of the Soviet Union. Everybody knows that Greenland, it's the Trump place. And if they join the U.S. at any point, 5-10 years down the line, it's another piece of Trump's legacy. And it would benefit our country great in terms of strategy, military, resources, finance, you name it. So there's that. Mike CARC says, kind of off topic, but thoughts on the Republicans' big gains in the Vermont state legislature this past election? I feel like not too many people talked about it. Well, I mean, the Republican Party of Vermont is not exact. It's a very liberal party, and you have a governor who's Republican. He wins big. There's going to be coattails. I'm not entirely sure that it's worth looking into that much beyond that point. I just don't. Jacob Hawley says gas the week before Trump got in was $3.56 in Wisconsin. It's now back to $2.80. Thank God I could start to afford gas again. Thank you, President Trump. Well, there you go. Now, we'll see if it continues. I hope it does, but it's a big shift. And people are seeing it. I'm seeing it on the ground. It's just, you are seeing gas go down. It's not where it was even a few months ago. But it fluctuates. It goes up and down. But the overall trend, if the trend can sustain itself, it's going to be huge. A couple of years we'll be enjoying gas for $2 and maybe a little bit of change. So there's that. So we have 20 super chats. We've been going for an hour and 12 minutes. I'll do a last call. We may not hit the 30 goal, but that's okay. We'll continue the goal on the next stream. We'll make it, I don't know, we'll make it like 40 or something. Or we'll make it 30 again. We'll do 50 super chats will be the goal for the week. So if you guys want to help us get closer, feel free. But other than that, we can look in regular chat as well. We can just look in regular chat. I'm sure everybody is definitely not having some argument about the Thomas Massie stuff. I could guarantee you that. But that was a big controversy on X, and a lot of people are up in arms about Trump, and a lot of people are defending Trump as well. I see where Trump's coming from. It's like, I agree it could be a better resolution, but is this worth shutting down the government over because it's not perfect? No, it's not. There are things that are very good in there, like the money for deportations. And the same people that are siding with Massie are the same people that are also, if they're on the right, yelling constantly about deportations. It's like people are saying it's so bad that Democrats are voting for it. It's like it's Jared Golden, okay? Like, I mean, Jared Golden is not like perfect, but he's doing it for political purposes. Everybody can see that. Like, he's just that Democrat. Maine is weird. You have some relatively conservative Democrats and obviously liberal Republicans up there because they tend to be a very independent, like, minded state for some reason. So it's what it is. Eric from Wisconsin. Oh, wait, no, we have Jacob Hawley. Jacob Hawley for 10 says, in 2018-2019, gas was $171 in Milwaukee. God, it was great. I appreciate that super chat. Eric from Wisconsin for 2 says, get this man to his goal. Well, I appreciate the super chat. Now they're rolling in. Now we're at 24. We're 6 away. You guys are extending the stream. You guys are really dead set on me hitting the goal, so I appreciate that. Just a super chat of 199 or above will help. We could hit it, but yeah, I mean, gas was really cheap under Trump. Eric from Wisconsin saying get this man to his goal. Appreciate that. Purple Potato says rep doesn't take AIPAC money influence. See, people made that claim because some person decided to reply to one of my tweets with that. And it's just not true. These are baseless allegations. It's true. Like, honestly, I'll take people's money. I will. Honestly, if AIPAC wants to pay me X amount of money to say that, I don't know, I don't like Thomas Massie because of this, that's fine, because I don't like Thomas Massie because of this. I'm not going to read their talking points verbatim and say, I think we have to give X amount of billion unconditionally to Israel in foreign aid every year, because I don't believe that, and I'm not going to. But at the same time, it's like I would, if that's what it takes to get border security and to cut immigration, it's fine. Look at Hungary. Hungary is very pro-Israel. They give a lot of money, I believe, or they at least contribute. And Hungary has everything I would need in a country, everything I would want in the ideal country. This notion that like these things are mutually exclusive, it's not true. You have very radical Marxists on the far left that are some of the biggest opposers of Israel. Now they want to give money to Gaza and all these other places, and that's another mess. And honestly, we give a lot of foreign aid to these other countries too. I mean, we've been giving money. It's the whole Iran deal. We're giving money to Iran, and it wasn't necessarily stopping them from building a weapon. It was just being funneled to these other organizations that are terror groups, and then we're funding both sides of the conflict. That's what Biden was doing, and that's why a lot of people, a lot of Muslims are upset. A lot of pro-Israeli Jews are upset as well. And that's why Donald Trump gained with both of those demographics in this past election. It's a big reason why Dearborn became red, and also why you have some precincts doing 75-point swings to the right in Rockland County, New York. I mean, it's just the way it goes. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just, like I said, incapable of understanding nuance. And then I also get accused of taking money from organizations that I honestly didn't really know much about until I had to look into it. And it's like, okay, so there's like an organization that'll pay people to tweet out certain things, and they can apparently you can pick and choose what you want, and they might have some stuff like that might be pro-Israel, and they probably have stuff that's in other categories like immigration or whatever. I don't do that. I don't need to take money to give my opinions. I take money from you guys, but it's like, even in the primaries, oh, you're getting paid by Trump to shill for Trump, because how could you support him? It's like, well, look at the primary results out of Iowa. I don't think I was alone. And also, you're terminally online if you think I had that big of an impact on that caucus, although I'd like to think I did. But it wasn't because I was taking money from Trump or his campaign. I would have liked to. I mean, you want to pay me money, then pay me money. I'll do it. But I'm not going to sit here and just write things off a script or read them off a script, because that's not how I operate. I'm somebody that will take, if donors want to send me money, I'll do it. But I'm independent. I have my own thoughts. I call balls and strikes. People disagree. That's fine. I like talking about it. I like conversation. I think that's the best way that we can make progress, not just in terms of getting the party on the right track, but in general. And it's true, the system's broken. I agree. The system is broken. How do we go about it? How do we fix it? What do we do? There's many different avenues you could go down. So let's see. Okay, we hit the goal. Thank you guys. You guys are great. Let's see. American Nerd 1776 says top 5 underrated presidents: Coolidge, Nixon, Polk, McKinley, and Grant. They may not have been the best presidencies, but deserve the recognition. Taking the Nixon controversy aside, there are a lot of things he did to expand government and things I disagree with. But it is true that a lot of it does get overlooked because of the fact that you had that big scandal. You had Watergate. Eric from Wisconsin says 5 away. Well, now we hit the goal. Sean says, you don't ever get pop culture references. Do you own a television? And if so, do you watch anything other than Little House? Oh, I don't watch I barely know what Little House on the Prairie is. It's some show, I assume, in the 1960s. I do own a television. I don't watch much TV, but whatever reference I got earlier, let me see if you sent one. You didn't. I don't know what else was it about the movie thing? I don't know. Yeah, there's references I get. There's references I don't get. I'm not a big TV watcher. but that's just the way it is. Purple Potato said he sent the skibbity thing again. It's like, you guys with this stuff, I don't get it. Jacob Hawley says Red Eagle Influencer Pack. Maybe one day. The thing is, I don't need to pay a bunch of influencers to like, I don't like that idea. And I know that there are groups that do that. I'm not saying they're not. I just don't want to, I don't want to have anything to do with them. I don't want to be controlled by a group that tells you have to say this or your contract is ripped up. It's like, I can get engagement on my own. I can make money on X on my own, and I do. I do get paid to tweet. I just don't get paid because I don't get paid what to tweet. There's a difference. And you do have a lot of astroturfing, and that's true. And if somebody says, like, will you promote this? It's different. Like, yeah, if I agree with it, I'll promote it. If not, I'm not going to promote it. It's that sort of thing. I don't need to be reading off a script or supporting things that I don't actually believe in. So Tucson PaleoCon for 2 says, shout out to Matt Gagnon, APAC's strongest soldier. Well, thank you for the 2. And who returns the reply claiming that he is APAC's biggest associate. See, the meme is spreading. The meme is spreading. It's like, because it's just all the accusations. It's like, I'm not, and by the way, I don't like big money in politics. I agree with that. Big money in politics, lobbies in general, whether it's APAC, whether it's the Ukraine lobby, whether it's Qatar, whether it's these other Gulf states, not a fan of it. But like this whole allegation of, oh, I'm going to accuse you of being paid off so I don't have to address your argument is not, and on any side, is not going to help us get anywhere. It doesn't make anybody look good. Now, I'm not saying that you can't say that certain votes in Congress might be tied to certain lobbies. A lot of them are. Plenty of them are. And it's not just when it comes to foreign policy. It comes to almost everything. Like even the NRA, which honestly are counterproductive past a certain point. Yeah, technically it's like the left doesn't like the NRA. The NRA are, supposedly the Second Amendment people. But the problem with that is that they also support some gun restrictions that other groups like the GOA, the Gun Owners of America, they don't support. So it's kind of like a controlled opposition thing in a way. And it didn't always used to be that way, but it's become that way. Like the whole bump stock ban with Trump, which thankfully is not in place anymore. Like that was supported by the NRA. They came to Trump and said, do this instead of like banning the guns or banning types of weapons. It's like, we don't need this anyways. It's a stupid ban. It doesn't even work. Like, it's dumb. DePweb, thank you for the 2. Jacob, also for the 2. American Nerd 1776 says, did Trump actually buy a Tesla today? Yes. CH Dan Hauser says, what department are you most excited for Doge to look into next or eliminate? I think that, the State Department's cut a lot off already, I think, which is good. In terms of some of these other places, I'd have to think about it. Definitely, like the Department of Defense is another big one. Even Social Security, the entitlements. I don't want to cut entitlements, but there's a lot of waste that could be identified. And you have a lot of people that are receiving, a lot of illegal aliens that find ways to receive Social Security. And we don't do anything about it. If you cut off those benefits, a lot of those people will go home. I know this whole self-deport thing was like a meme back in the day because it was like Mitt Romney's thing. But in reality, a lot of the deportations are eventually going to be self-deportations. If you start rounding up 1 million people, take them home, a lot of other people are just going to say, I don't want to be rounded up. I'm just going to go home on my own. It's like, it's just human nature. It's like a pride thing. But if you cut off benefits in general, yeah, people are going to go home. They should. They're not, they break into the country illegally. We don't know who they are. They should go back. They should go back. American Nerd 76 with a final super chat says, Greater Idaho or Greater Indiana, which is better? I mean, Greater Indiana, I think, would net Republicans more electoral votes. I think if you talk about what is more likely to happen, probably Greater Idaho. Probably. Because Illinois is not giving up that much to Indiana. But Oregon, Washington losing an electoral vote max to Iowa, yeah, it's possible. Or not Iowa, Idaho. I pulled a Biden with that one, wrong state. I'm tired, guys. We got to wrap things up. It's been an hour and a half, but I appreciate all the super chats, even the ones that I didn't quite understand. So, all right, we'll wrap things up. Like the stream down below, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.